Tom, are we expecting any other members for this meeting?
No, everybody's here except for Mark, who will join us at about 6:30 or so.
That's what I understood. So let's call the meeting to order. And what we're going to do is just very quickly, and actually though, 1, 2, 3, Tom, we don't, we do have a quorum, don't we?
We do. Everybody except for Sarah Kramer should be in, I believe.
Okay, so.
I'm not sure if Danielle's on board yet, but everybody else should
Tom
be.
sent us the minutes prior to tonight. And do I have any suggestion for addition, deletion, or changes to the minutes? Not hearing any, we're going to place those on the record and move right to
Public comment.
Is that correct, Tom?
That's correct.
Now, I ask all of you to please be patient with us. We have a fair amount of public comment tonight. And in order to deal with the public comment, what we're going to do is Kelly and I are going to take turns reading those into the record. We want to make sure that anyone who took the time to make public comment is on the record. Kelly, I'm going to go ahead and start. Is that all right with you? You're on mute. Off mute, Kelly. You're still on mute. Okay. First submission is from Timothy Ryan, 10 Oakwood Road, Simsbury. I am writing in support of making 2 of the existing 4 courts at Simsbury Farms pickleball friendly. Pickleball is one of the fastest growing sports in the country. Participation increased over 21% during 2021, up to 4 million people, and there are currently many players in town. Pickleball is a sport that is very accessible and can be enjoyed by people of all ages, so these courts will be a very popular amenity if the town can provide this additional opportunity and location to play. The current locations in town, Henry James and Terriffill Park, which are lined for pickleball, are on courts which are due for resurfacing and therefore are not in the best shape. So it would be nice to have another location to play in town. The addition of these 4 lines also should not detract from the current state of play for tennis, since the outline of a pickleball court is already there on account of youth tennis lines. Kelly?
So the second comments, dear sir, I consider a tennis court and do not want pickleball lines painted on it. Dave?
Dave and Kelly, can you please just read the name and address of those as you do them, please?
Sure. Dave, you've got to do yours first.
So yeah, mine was Timothy Ryan, 10 Oakwood Road, Simsbury.
Yeah, I'm sorry. And mine was Bob Genderjack, 353 Firetown Road, Simsbury.
Thank you.
Next one is Andy Brower, 17 Shady Lane, West Simsbury. I am writing in support of adding the pickleball line to Simsbury Farms courts.
Next is Tom Clark, 21 Watson Drive in West Simsbury. As a longtime resident of Simsbury, 42 years, and tennis player, I am opposed to adding pickleball lines to the tennis courts at Simsbury Farms. My Watson Drive home backs up to the farms, and I wouldn't want to hear the noise of a pickleball match. No lines, please.
Next submission is Steve Ballantyne, 31 Metacom Drive, Simsbury. As a tennis-playing resident of Simsbury and the organizer of a group of 8 double players who have ongoing paid reservations for 2 tennis courts for every 2 hours Thursday night at Simsbury Farms, I respectfully request that you do not put pickleball lines on the Simsbury Farms tennis courts. Our group would leave and reserve courts elsewhere if pickleball lines were added to the courts, as having an added set of pickleball lines makes it much more difficult to call the lines and play tennis on what we are supposed to be tennis courts. An annoying sound of pickleball is very distracting when playing tennis. Thank you for soliciting feedback on this issue, as pickleball lines significantly reduce the value of the courts for tennis.
Next is Stuart Yaffe, 43 Ashton Circle in Simsbury. Pickleball is currently the fastest growing sport in the United States. Simsbury seems to be unaware of the popularity of the sport. Cities and towns all across the country have been adding pickleball courts to their parks and recreation departments. Adding a couple of lines to one or two courts certainly won't bring Simsbury up to par with all our surrounding towns for pickleball, but it would be a start. There are many pickleball players in town, but no town facility to use during school hours. Adding the lines at the farms would make a difference.
Next submission is from a Brian Brown, 221 Firetown Road, Simsbury. I'm a pickleball player who lives near Simsbury Farms. It would be fantastic to have at least 2 tennis courts marked with pickle lines. The Farms has always been a place that I use to exercise, especially to swim and play paddle. This would be an excellent addition to what the town offers. Thank you.
Next is Terry Carrier, 132 Firetown Road in Simsbury. We in Simsbury are very fortunate to have such a wonderful recreational facility at Simsbury Farms. I fully support adding pickleball lines to the farm's tennis courts. Great game and is becoming more and more popular. Nice to grow the sport in our town. Respectfully.
Next entry, next submission, Heather Calabro from 25 Hampton Circle. As a Simsbury resident, I'm in favor of painting pickleball lines on the tennis courts at Simsbury Farms. Simsbury Farms is an incredible facility that our town is so incredibly lucky to have for everyone's, and she capitalized that, use. Pickleball is a sport for everyone. Its popularity has massively grown. It is only appropriate that pickleball could be played at our multi-sport complex. Multi-use courts are in all of the neighboring towns these days. Simsbury residents should not have to commute to a neighboring town in order to play pickleball. Painting the pickleball lines on 2 out of the 4 courts at Simsbury Farms is a healthy compromise for everyone in this wonderfully athletic/active town. Thank you for your time.
Next up is Pamela Moore, 47 Berry Lane in Simsbury. Good afternoon. As an avid tennis player who lives in this town, I would like the town of Simsbury to know that a tennis court is a tennis court. The town should not, and that is in caps, not consider putting pickleball lines on the existing tennis courts at Simsbury Farms. Thank you.
Next submission, Uma Mehta, M-E-H-T-A, 42 Banks Road, Simsbury. Dear Mr. Taberski and Mr. Bush, I email you today regarding today's vote on adding pickleball lines to Simsbury Farms tennis court. While pickleball is an enjoyable activity, it also results in very loud and distracting sounds. Not only would this deter tennis players from using the courts that they have been using for years, but children in the park would certainly be distraught and upset at the clamorous sounds. My sister and I have been tennis players and enjoyed your facility for 15 years. The peaceful atmosphere at Simsbury Farms is something we have been very grateful for and certainly has helped us focus on our game while at the courts. I think that pickleball players around town have numerous facilities in which they can enjoy their sport while letting others enjoy theirs. I hope you take this into consideration.
Next up is Awani Mehta, 42 Banks Road in Simsbury. Dear Mr. Taberski and Mr. Bush, I'm reaching out to you today with regard to the vote to add pickleball lines to the tennis courts at Simsbury Farms. We are a family of 4 that are all active tennis players in the Simsbury community for many years and have very much enjoyed and appreciated the Simsbury Farms tennis facility. We strongly oppose the addition of pickleball lines to the courts there. Pickleball can be an enjoyable activity for many, but it produces loud, distracting sounds that would make it impossible to enjoy tennis on an adjacent court. I sincerely hope that the tennis courts are allowed to remain just tennis courts and that this beautiful facility continues to be enjoyed by folks of all ages in our community.
Next submission is Noel Bodenberg, 14 Watson Drive, West Simsbury. I am writing to voice my concerns about adding pickleball lines to the tennis courts at Simsbury Farms. Tennis courts are meant for tennis. There are not many tennis courts in town, and the Farms courts are very nice and often already busy with tennis players using them. The tennis community of Simsbury deserves its own courts that are free of pickleball players crowding them and making loud pickleball noise. In addition, in teaching my kids the game, there are already extra lines on the courts causing confusion. We certainly don't need more.
Next up is Bill Donahue, 8 Lincoln Lane in Weetah. Hi, my name is Bill Donahue. I've run the junior and adult tennis programs at Simsbury Farms for over 20 years. I am completely opposed to adding pickleball lines to the tennis courts at Simsbury Farms. Simply Google, quote, pickleball noise complaints, end quote. The number of news stories and lawsuits speak for themselves. I have 8 tennis courts at my indoor tennis facility and wouldn't dare put tennis play next to pickleball play. The tennis players would leave and never come back. In my opinion, this would be a mistake that would negatively affect the tennis players, the people on the playground, and golfers on the 18th tee and fairway. Thank you.
The next submission is from Liz Keppel, 1 Cornfield Road, Simsbury, Connecticut. And for complete disclosure, Liz is part of our commission. Dear Tom, David, and my fellow Simsbury Cultural Parks and Recreation Commissioners, as a head coach of one of the top high school teams in the state, a USTA official, captain, and player, I would like to add my objection to adding pickleball lines at Simsbury Farms tennis courts. School is out in 2 weeks. It is light out until 8 p.m. Henry James is a great option for pickleball players. It is quiet in the morning all summer. The tennis community does not like the added lines, and it's not used as much for tennis playing since the lines were added. The lines are distracting on the tennis courts and make teaching kids and adults extremely difficult, even more so for experienced players enjoying the game. We play our sport based on line calls. The addition of lines caused a disruption to the game. The sound capitalized, from pickleball is loud and intrusive to playing tennis. Mixing the courts would be setting up a conflict unnecessarily with tennis players and pickleball participants. I would never endorse a bocce ball court on a putting green or a shuffleboard court on a pool deck. We tennis players already avoid Henry James due to the pickleball lines and the sound from active play. Now we have to be in conflict at the farms. That's not a good solution. Here are a few options to consider. There are surfaces that can be placed on top of paddle tennis courts that would allow the paddle tennis courts to be used as pickleball courts in the, again, capitalized, summer only, end of capitalized. The paddle tennis courts have lights. Another option, use the skating rink with portable pickleball setup available on Amazon, less than $200. Another option, basketball courts. Add a portable setup for morning play. Henry James is a perfect option for fun pickleball activities. I am researching the name of the company that makes the overlay for paddle tennis courts. Balls from pickle and tennis intermixed in the same courts is not a good idea and potentially dangerous. Tennis balls leave a racket at a speed of 50 to 80 miles an hour and can be dangerous, as it would be an errant pickleball rolling under active running tennis players who are watching lines, and the tennis ball not rolling pickleballs. My high school team of 40 players and their families, this is a good addition, are looking forward to playing tennis this summer at our wonderful Simsbury Farms tennis courts. Congratulations, Liz, by the way.
Okay, next up, I believe, are Charlotte and Phil Cushan, 21 Hayes Road in Terriffill. I just read that you were receiving input about pickleball lines. If the kids' tennis lines are not the standardized professional lines, why can't pickleball lines be used for a kids' lesson practice? Then we would also be able to use regulation pickleball lines for our adult and senior pickleball. We have waited and asked patiently for something to be done for the sport of pickleball, which so many seniors are enjoying. Thanks for your attention to this matter.
Now there are comments from non-residents, and we just simply wanted to identify them as non-residents before reading the comments. From Sally Stapleton, I would really prefer that no pickleball be played at Simsbury Farms. It is hard enough to find a public court to play at in Simsbury, especially when school is in session. If you don't belong to a private club and school is still in session, you're really out of luck. Thank you.
I believe next up, and this again is a non-resident, I believe, is Molly Welch, 88 Moravia. Yeah, definitely a non-resident of Avon, Moravia Road, Avon. I understand there is consideration being given to adding some partial pickleball lines to the tennis courts at Simsbury Farms. I applaud the effort to support pickleball, the fastest growing sport in America. The day after I retired in 2017, I went to the Terrifield Park courts and was welcomed into the group by Phil and Charlotte Couchon. Phil was my first and best mentor for this amazing sport. Quite simply, Phil and Charlotte have done so much to promote pickleball in this region. More and more people of all ages are playing pickleball on a regular basis. Even the schools have started introducing young people to this wonderful game. In short, there is increasing demand for pickleball venues. Over the years, Simsbury has earned a reputation for offering the best to its citizens. Simsbury Farms is a prime example of how the town has provided outstanding facilities. In my opinion, the best public golf course in the region. We in the pickleball community are excited to see how Simsbury can meet the increasing demand for this great sport. We look forward to improvements at Terrifield Park, as well as pickleball courts at any other town venue. Thank you.
And lastly, again, from a non-resident, Susan Greer, 88 Morvia Road, Avon. Mr. Tyberski, I wish to add my support for pickleball in Simsbury and your help in growing the already popular sport. I joined the group playing in Terrifield and met many new people. During the pandemic, outdoor pickleball was one of the things I looked forward to, even in 18-degree weather. I support efforts for more courts at the farms, especially since we do not currently have the use of the Terrifield courts. So that concludes public comment that was submitted to either Tom Tyberski or myself. At this point, and Tom, I'm just going to kind of turn back to you. I believe that under now we can move on to new business. Is that correct?
Dave, that's correct. And Dwayne Royce is in the session. If you want to move, invite Dwayne to begin his presentation. If he could turn his video on, I think that'd be helpful.
Yeah. There you go. So Dwayne, I do see that you're on the Zoom remote hearing here, and would appreciate if you have the ability or desire to put on the video that you do so. If not, that's quite all right. But it's your opportunity to make your presentation regarding pickleball lines at Simsbury Farms.
Thank you. I don't see my face on here, but do you hear me?
We do.
Okay, you don't need my face. That's good. That's good. And for Tom and the commissioner members, thank you for this opportunity. There's a lot of back and forth on this, but let me give you our input. Pickleball is a popular recreational sport now played mostly by adults and seniors. It is easy to learn and can be played at many levels. As a serious player, we play 2 hours. My Fitbit watch credits me with more than 11,000 steps. Seniors are up early in the morning and do like to get into the activity soon after breakfast. We cannot play at Henry James in the morning. We are allowed to play at Henry James 2:30 in the afternoon. Afternoon temperatures reach 80 degrees and above starting in May. This was true last week, hot and humid. The hot temperatures will continue into September. October is when afternoon is when breezes and winds occur, which is not conducive to accurate play with pickleball. Last summer, our group found a way to play in the morning at the farms. The green lines on the side for youngsters is the correct width. We then lay string 7 feet from the net, forming the kitchen. We then use a serving box as the back line. This is close, but of course not exact. It's 1 foot short, not satisfying for serious pickleball players. Last fall, our group played pickleball at the farms in the morning until the nets came down in December. Pickleball is played at the YMCA, at Granby Town Park, two of the 4 courts, at the 5 new tennis courts on Park Avenue in Bloomfield, and at the outdoor and indoor courts at the Windsor Community Center. All these courts have different colored lines for tennis and lines for pickleball. We, dozens and dozens of players, have not had difficulty playing pickleball on these pickleball and tennis lines. I expect the tennis players at these courts have not had difficulty playing tennis on the tennis court lines. Otherwise, these towns in the Y and towns across America would not have combined pickleball and tennis use on their courts. We are here tonight asking for 4 blue lines to be added on 2 tennis courts at the farms. Lines to make the kitchen and lines to make the back line of the pickleball court. We seniors have children, grandchildren, and we are sure can play tennis and pickleball in the courts. We ask you to provide pickleball lines on 2 of the courts of the farms. Change is good. Tennis, these people who want to play tennis, tennis can be played at the 5 courts at the high school. There are no pickleball lines at the high school, if they're big concerned about it. I know on the Facebook Simsbury Park and Rec has included a combined pickleball and tennis court with the lines we are asking for. Tom probably has presented this to you. We submit this request to be entered into tonight's meeting minutes, and I thank you. Chris Boswell has an input to add. Thank you, Tom.
You're welcome.
Any questions on? There's the blue line just outside of the box, which is 1 foot difference. But it makes a lot of difference when you get to be a advanced pickleball player. You need that extra foot. And of course, we need the kitchen line showed there too also.
Dwayne has a few people that, the Murphys, Chris Boswell, here to help him with his presentation. I'm not sure, Dwayne, if you want to lead in for Chris or
no,
Mr. Murphy.
I believe Chris Boswell should be on here.
I'm here.
Okay, go. I'm done, and I appreciate the time to you're listening, and I think it's time for a change that we do go for pickleball. And go ahead, if you turn it over to Chris, go ahead.
All right, folks, I'm a kind of a super user of Simsbury Farms. I play hockey, golf, and paddle tennis there. Probably pre-pandemic, in the early fall of 2019, we were pursuing this same issue and got turned down. And we started to monitor. I'm probably at the farms about 4 days a week. We started to monitor the farm's usage of the tennis courts on a school day in the mornings. I went 16, 18 days without, when we got there between 9 and 11 in the morning, without seeing another person using the courts. And that's the primary time that the pickleball players would play. Every once in a while, like today, you might find, one group using the courts, but for the most part, there's nobody there during this time of day. And then during the pandemic, Dwayne's group used the courts, and everyone's complaining about, some of the comments today. People were voicing concerns about the noise. I can tell you that the people on the paddle tennis courts were way louder than the people than the pickleball balls bouncing. And when we play at Henry James, we often have mixed groups where there's tennis players and pickleball players. I will admit that probably the more advanced tennis players avoid the pickleball, when there's prime time for pickleball players, but there's a lot of times where we're all playing at the same time, and we haven't had any issues at all. I think some of the feedback I heard today was not factually accurate. We don't have anywhere else to play when school is in session. There's tennis alternatives, but there are no pickleball alternatives for days when in Simsbury right now, for days when school is in session. So if we could continue to work at getting Terrafil open again. And lastly, I'll add, I have a memorial fund for my husband that's earmarked for things at Simsbury Farms that would improve the quality there. And I'd be happy to pay for the lines at the, you know, to put the lines on the pickleball courts out of that fund.
And now I want to speak.
Okay, can I speak?
Can I speak?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Murphy.
You know, on Saturday, I was over there at junior high. There were 14 people who were playing pickleball. I don't think anybody was over at the tennis courts. In fact, I went to play golf later, and I can assure you that there was nobody at the tennis courts. In Florida, when I go there in the winter, there are 8 pickleball courts adjacent to 8 tennis courts. None of the tennis players leave because the pickleball courts are full. And by the way, the pickleball courts are always full, and the tennis courts are not full. You need to recognize that when we are retired, we need to play in the morning. We play from 9 to 11, 9 to 12. We don't play when the tennis high school teams are out there. We don't play when the extreme people who are really good tennis players are there. We play in the morning. Yes, it's cold. You know, pickleball was played here for 12 months a year. Tennis courts seem to close in October. Pickleball courts keep going. We need to have a place to play here in Simsbury so people don't move on. Thank you.
Dave, you're muted.
Yeah, Dave, unmute yourself there.
Is there anyone else who would like to make any further comment as it relates to the presentation in support of adding the lines for the pickleball court other than Ms. Boswell and the Murphys? All right. Hearing none, what I'd like to do at this point is to fellow commission members. Tom, you've got the diagram up, but I think what I'd like is, can you take that down so that if there is comment, folks can see what people have to say a little easier than on the side view?
Oh, sure, you bet. If there's any questions, I have for the record, I have some other pictures if you have questions.
No, then Tom, that would be perfect. Why don't I segue into you first?
Sure. So this is what the existing courts look like right now. It's a Google Earth view of it. You can see the U10 lines in that lighter color running here. That's as close as I could get to show them. But just for illustration purposes, this is what we have now. This is what Dwayne is proposing. Obviously,
so Tom, can I just understand the youth lines? Is that the blue line we're looking at?
The white line in our current courts, the youth lines are in a very light color that is hard to see from this height. I believe they're light. They might be light green on our. I think they are light green on our court.
But if you scroll down a little bit, is it on your attachment 2? Is it the blue lines?
Yeah. So on this attachment, the youth lines are represented as blue on this example.
Yep.
What Dwayne is proposing are these 4 purple lines, and again, they're not purple for illustrative purposes only. You know, they could be a color that's acceptable to everybody, but for the ease of seeing what's being proposed, I did them in purple. This next picture is a court, I believe it's somewhere in the Midwest, but this court is lined for, obviously you could see the white tennis lines, you can see the blue U10 lines, and they have a pickleball line in green on this court. I just wanted to share that example with you so you can see what it looks like. And then in this final picture, this is what, if you can see it, this is what an actual pickleball court laid out on a tennis court would look like. The yellow lines representing the full pickleball lines. Normally, pickleball is a little bit less wide than the U10 tennis line. So what Dwayne is proposing is he's just proposing the back line, the kitchen line on both sides. He's not proposing a sideline. Just so it's clear what he's asking for.
So Tom, I think that I want to clarify that is so Dwayne's not proposing this yellow line that I see that you can use the cursor there. They're simply going to use the youth blue lines as their sidelines.
As their sidelines, that's correct. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Everything's about a compromise.
Okay.
All right. So what I'd like to do here first is just find out from our commission members, and I see a number of you folks are all on mute, just what questions, if any, do you have, or what thoughts, if any, do you have before we decide how we're moving forward at this point?
Well, I mean, I'll just throw this out, Dave. Ultimately, you know, we'd like to make an informed decision, right? So making an informed decision means gathering as much input. And clearly, while have the floor, I would like to thank everybody for their inputs, because I feel like that helps immensely.
No, I think part of that is very valid from a standpoint of we have a community that we want to serve all needs as best we can. And in doing so, I actually thought that some input that we had today during public comment introduced some possible alternatives to necessarily, at this point, immediately putting additional lines on the Simsbury Farms Court. I think we are not doing our job as part of Park and Rec if we do not at least vet those options to find out, is it as low cost an alternative as $200 for a layover platform or something of that nature. And I apologize, I don't know about this, and all the public comment I got today. I didn't get, before today. I got this morning. I got this afternoon. So I want to make very clear that it isn't, well, I would suggest that our commission would be best to look into, are there other alternatives that are cost effective? Because I'll acknowledge something to the pickleball community. We know that Terrafil is a mess. All right. We understand that. We understand it is not a quick fix, and we understand we need to help you folks find a way to enjoy your sport. Flip side is that if there was within our very tight town budgets, a cost-effective alternative, I believe it is our obligation as commission members to investigate that and then present that again before we actually take a vote. I appreciate that the fact that you folks have had a tough year, that once, that school's in session, and that really limits your options. I get that. Fortunately, school's going to be done here in a couple of weeks, and I'll keep this on the agenda for our next meeting. I'm not looking to push anything out for a long time. But I do think that I would like to have the opportunity for Tom and his staff to investigate, are there any alternatives to this? Because as you saw from public comment, we have both positive and negative comments relative to the tennis community, their comments, and the pickleball community and their comments. Out of respect for both of those groups, I think we owe it to make sure that we've looked at this thoroughly before we try to make a decision. Fellow commission members, do you have any thoughts on both Kelly and my comments?
No, I totally agree with you, Dave. I really want to look at this some more also. I mean, there was almost equal cons and pros for the pickleball court. We have to weigh both sides. There are some valid concerns about putting those lines on the courts. And we have instruction coming up now in the summer. There's tennis summer camps up there with young kids learning how to play tennis. We have to take that into consideration, whether this is going to be a problem for them learning how to play tennis on those courts. And I personally don't play tennis. I don't play pickleball, so I have no stake in either one of these. but I personally don't agree with telling people they have to leave those courts and go play at the high school now. So we really have a lot to think about on other alternatives, because these people do have a right to play pickleball also, and we got to find some ways for them to get more courts. But we got a lot to think about here.
Can I just add, we tried years ago to play pickleball on the Simsbury Farms rink, and it's too slippery, the surface. And I'm a hockey player, so I mean, I'm all over the rink, and I think the rink is a wonderful thing. In the summertime, there's no way to keep it clean. Yep. So it's just too slippery. It's dangerous. And in fact, the farms determined that. I mean, John was the one who finally shut it down and said it's not safe. So you'd have to, you know, I don't think you could put another surface down on it where we could play. And the paddleball courts, you won't get any pickleball players to play on the paddleball courts. It doesn't work. The paddleball court is so hard. The bounces are all totally different. Even with the overlay down, it changes the game completely.
So Chris, so I appreciate your comments. First of all, when you mentioned John, is that John Tebow?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then secondly, what was the issue? So you're educating us. What was the issue with the overlay on a paddle tennis court?
I have not personally done it. I've just heard from other people. And the bounces are completely different.
Okay.
Hello.
Played on if you play a lot of pickle.
I have played on the overlay up at Hot Meadow Tennis Group, and I think they've kind of abandoned it. I don't think anybody's playing at pickleball up there now.
They tried it at Hot Meadow.
It doesn't work. It's got too many seams. It doesn't work.
Rich, so just make sure I understand your comment. Hot Meadow has actually tried this overlay on their paddle tennis court?
They have.
Thank
you. You'll have to talk to members up there. I've played only twice up there. I know I wouldn't play there again. And so you have to talk to other Hot Meadow people up there, but it doesn't really work because the seams are too great. It doesn't really work up there.
All right. And this is, I hope the pickleball advocates appreciate that. Ready? I'm hearing this. Tom's hearing this. Kelly's hearing this. All the commission, we're hearing this for the first time. We, in all fairness to all sides, we need to make sure that we, ready? Tomorrow, my call or Tom's call is going to be to Hot Meadow. Tell me what you're doing. Tell me why you did it.
Can I just correct? It's Hot Brook, not Hot Meadow.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hot Brook. Big difference.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Got it. And then the other, so again, Chris, back to you real quick, was when playing on the rink surface, I understand the rink can collect some pollen. We've all seen that. But
and bird poop and etc.
No, problem is the spring problem. Are there issues with humidity or something like that or heat during the summer?
It's just dust and everything else. No matter how much they swept, you couldn't keep it, and it's slippery to start with. I mean, we used to throw birthday parties there with rollerblades and things, and they, even that kind of stuff was dangerous. It's a surface that is almost impossible to keep, and that makes it dangerous.
Was there
David,
any kind of overlay used?
Dave, am I on here? Dave, the surface on the ice rink there is too slippery. Pickleball can be a dangerous sport if you lose your footing. I've had physical damage with pickleball, but I still play. But it's too slippery. You can't play on the ice rink.
But so Dwayne, that was my question, which was when this was tried on the ice rink, was there an overlay surface used?
What would be an overlay be? No, this was back in the beginning when Phil Cochran and Charlotte started about 6 years ago. And I've just joined this pickleball club 2 years ago.
All right. I'll get the history from both Tom and John to make sure that we understand the history. Lori?
I have a question because I'm ignorant on the pickleball itself. What is the pickleball made out of, and does it add any extra wear or tear onto a tennis court? I don't know what the material is.
It's like a hard wiffle ball.
Yeah, it's a wiffle ball.
So it does make a sound. When people complain about the noise in a multi-use place like the Farms, you would never notice the noise. Other tennis players on the court at the time would, but not like surrounding neighbors or anything. In a condo complex or something like that, you might notice the bounce because it does make more of a noise than a tennis ball would. It does not provide any additional wear and tear on the court.
And I have a question for Liz.
Excuse me, what we have done in Florida is there are certain paddles and certain balls that are allowed for pickleball. And these are engineered to be quiet. And so only certain paddles and only certain pickleballs are allowed. And so this has decreased the noise. And so the community is very, very happy with that. And condos are within 100 feet of these pickleball courts.
Kelly?
Yeah, I have a question for Liz as the resident tennis player and certainly as the head coach, somebody that is in the know relative to tennis. And I do play, but I'm not, I wouldn't call myself an A player. Liz, is the concern, and it was a great letter, by the way. Is the concern relative to instruction, relative to competition, or is it overall confusing?
The additional lines are difficult for tennis players because our sport is called by lines, as is pickleball, but we're already dealing with other lines, and there's only 4 courts up there, so this is 50% of the facility that the town of Simsbury provides. The lines are a real problem for play. And that's where we run into conflict with tennis players. And it's not just me saying that, that's a lot of tennis players saying
that was going to be my next question, actually, Liz.
But this is multi-use, and everybody throughout
it's a tennis court.
Throughout America,
it's a tennis court, yeah.
In these courts.
This is a subjective argument, like, politics today. I mean, you're going to get both sides from pickleball players.
Yeah, but they are tennis courts. I'm so glad that the pickleball courts were added to Henry James. And on June 11th, every morning, all 5 are open. So there is a facility. I know school starts in August, but there is a facility for the time being as this is mulled over and we're trying to find solutions. I'm thankful to say that there is a facility that can be used for all of our pickleball enthusiasts. But, making a decision right now is something that should be a fact gathering, which is why I offered potential solutions. I want everyone to enjoy. I love pickleball. Is a lot of fun. Played it in Hilton Head, played it up at Hopbrook. I understand what you're saying about the scenes, but they were actually working on that. I just spoke to some of the members up there about that. So I'm hoping for something that makes everybody happy, but I am thankful that June 11th, boom, we can get those pickleball enthusiasts on the courts playing at least of all of the 5 Henry James courts. I'm hopeful for Terriffill. I really am hopeful for Terriffill in the future.
How many tennis courts are there in the town?
Henry James has 5. The high school has 6. That's used by league play in the summertime and instruction. High school programs, and then you have the 4 at Simsbury Farms.
So you have 15 tennis courts in the town?
No, 5 are at Henry James, and they're not really used by tennis players since the lines have been added.
Yeah, no.
Then if they're not used by tennis players, why don't you line all the lines at Henry James for pickleball?
That's up to the school system.
Yeah, there's competing interests that are involved.
They do intramurals. There's teaching. I actually am an intramural teacher for the middle school kids. So I go out every fall and I'm trying to teach them the basics. So I can tell you that's part of the education, and physical education teaches tennis.
All right.
So we're trying to make a lot of people happy.
Liz, I'm going to stop you at this point because we have a fairly full agenda this evening, and I think we already have identified that we understand the competing interest. And what I'd like to do is somewhat close the discussion right now till Tom, his people, and the commission can get additional information. I promise you pickleballers, you are on our agenda for next month's meeting. I appreciate you bringing this to our attention, and we are going to do everything we can to make a decision quickly because we understand the competing interests and the desire that all of us have, which is to be active, athletic, and get exercise because it benefits everything. Is that all right with everybody then?
Thank you, David.
There we go. All right, so thank you. What we're going to do at this point, I'm going to move on to the next agenda. Oh, so let's formally, Tom, let's table pickleball. I want it formally put on for the next agenda, next month's agenda. But I'd like to move on to Mark Sparks of the Hilltop Grill at Simsbury Farms. Thank you for all who participated this evening.
Yes, thank you, guys. Much appreciated. Your input was really helpful.
Oh, there's Mark.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Mark.
I'm out in the field, so I hope this works. Hopefully there's not too much background noise.
We apologize that we were a little later than we expected to be joining you.
It's a great conversation, so definitely need it. So appreciate you finding time for us as well.
Maybe some of your future customers there at Hilltop Grill.
Pickleball, not a problem. Tennis, even wonderful. Even as wonderful, I should say. Let me correct myself. I just wanted to jump on and say hello to everyone. Thank you for the warm welcome that we have received to date up at the Hilltop Grill. If you haven't been, we invite you to come up and visit us. I just wanted to kind of give a state of affairs, an update as to where we are with things. As of about 2 weeks ago, we have our liquor permit. So we are pouring beer and wine actively. That has really helped with business and uptick in business. The patio's been filled just this afternoon. A very full patio. Weekends have been very full. We are trying wonderful things for everyone. Just tomorrow evening, even though we hear of a little bit of rain, we're still going to go with live entertainment. So Floyd Patterson is going to be on our calendar beginning around 5:30 in the evening. We'll try to work out that with the rain. We're also going to have some Sundays with live entertainment as well. We're introducing a brunch menu. We started this past Sunday. It was pretty well received. We'll bring it back again this Sunday and hopefully add more and more to it. Weekly specials began this week with beer and burger. We'll have more weekly specials starting next week. I think beer and burger will stay around all summer long. We'll be introducing at least 4 weekly specials every week. Our menu has just been well received. We hope everyone's enjoyed who has experienced it. We've had a lot of private events, tournaments, and otherwise happening under the tent. We've had good feedback on that. I have just picked up from the printer. You can't really see it because of the sun probably, but our very large sign that will go on the tee boxes, as well as QR codes that will laminated to go on all the bev carts. We'll also, hopefully with Tom Tyberski's approval, we'll have some signs kind of going up the way, leading people to the grill. If there's any questions that you have, I'm happy to answer them. But it's been a wonderful experience. My staff and I all thank you for your warm welcome.
So first, let me just open it up to the other members of the commission. I had an opportunity to speak with Mark earlier today, so he answered a number of my questions. But I'm really curious, Lori, I think I've seen you up there already having dinner with your family. Does anyone have any questions for Mark about the operation or about what we're looking at in the future?
I have one question for Mark, and I have to say, Mark, your food is delicious. It's very good.
Thank you, Chef Michael.
We've liked everything we've eaten up there. The only question I have for you is the length of time it takes to get served is it's long, and I don't know if there's anything that you can do to increase that. I've actually seen people get up and leave because they weren't being served, and I know for us it's taken sometimes 45 minutes to an hour to get our meal. So that's the only concern I have, and I'll leave that to you to answer.
So, Lori, we have tight quarters, almost similar to working on in a galley. It's almost galley-style cooking. We need to run the kitchen with 2 to 3 people. Sometimes when you have more, it's less is more, but we need 2 or 3 people to develop that menu. On some key dates that we identify as big business, some of the things that we'll be doing are theme nights, cooking on the patio, if you will, using the outdoor cooking in the summer to try to kind of take the pressure off of the kitchen. Some great things are in the works for that. I don't want to tip our hat too much, but there's a big kind of blue truck that's been on our property, kind of like a food truck. So we might be doing some fun things with the food truck as well. And all of those things help to take the pressure off the kitchen. And us also, you know, we're learning the menu. Chef Michael is leading a great team. Staffing has been, as it is all around our country, challenging. So we've taken the stance of bringing in some entry-level folks and training them and teaching them from the ground up. But you know, in a short period, we hope to welcome back some, you know, in other parts of our company, we can bring in seasoned staff as well on occasions as we identify busy dates. So that's one of the great things about our company. We definitely need that feedback. Grab and go is something that's important, especially as guests are making the turn. So we want to really kind of, I apologize. I so apologize. The pleasure, some of the things that happen when you're out in the field working, right? So, you know, grab and go menu, we really want to develop that. And that's something that we're going to be working on over the next week or so. So to take less pressure off, to take less off of the kitchen.
No, and Lori, I appreciate your comment because I have heard some of the similar comments as well. I actually observed, I actually think you and I were there the same night. We observed the same situation with the couple that left. And yet I hope that as we talk to our fellow patrons, our fellow golfers, Mark's learning the ropes of Simsbury Farms. And we're going to have a couple of bumps in the road as we go. You know, Mark, I was up there this past Friday with a number of golfers in the couples league. Mark had staff everywhere, but that still didn't resolve some of the problems of a tight kitchen. So Mark, I appreciate your exploring the opportunity to perhaps use an outdoor grill, use a food truck, to create the creative menu that says, all right, you know what, it's taco night and all the tacos are coming out of the truck or whatever it may be. But Lori, I agree with you. And I think part of that is that we just need to make sure that we are communicating together with Mark or his staff so that they hear from us to say, you know what, gee, on a Friday night, maybe you do need 4 waitresses, not 3 or whatever it may be. But I also feel Mark's pain. He's learning when the busy times are and when they aren't.
Absolutely.
I have to say, Mark, your crab cakes are fabulous. I'm just
yeah, that's a really if we don't mind sharing the recipe. So if you want the recipe, but we like when you come up and let us serve you. So thank you for sharing that. And
Thank you.
know, feedback is so important. That's how we improve. And I'm excited for Friday nights. Even though we're working, we look forward to Friday nights with the live entertainment that we want to bring. Hopefully that, you know, helps to kind of just keep people in a calm mood and really enjoying. But also some of the things that we're cooking on the grill and on the food truck when we can get the food truck up there are really going to help to take the pressure off the kitchen.
Mark, are you also considering, or again, all this is questions just about planning. Are you considering that also Saturday night could be if you will, a featured meal night?
Sure. You know, Saturdays we have a lot of things booked under the tent for Saturdays. So, you know, we have to kind of share spaces. So we're looking at other areas where, again, I apologize for the noise. But we're looking at other creative areas to create outdoor kitchens. Saturday night, I'd love to. We don't want to turn anyone away. You know, as Chef Michael says, if he's there, if he's in the kitchen, he's cooking. And so Saturday nights, we would love to see more activity on Saturday nights. Just know that we do a lot of banquets under the tent on Saturdays, tournaments on Saturdays and things like that. So I'm not opposed to Saturdays. And Sundays, we're going to have some terrific things going on there as well.
No, because that in the past, again, it's, you know, we also understand you're a weather-dependent facility. And in the past, a beautiful summer Saturday evening, I can tell you if you've got something going on up there, you're going to have every table filled. But I understand your concern about, if you will, being doubly booked, you know, an event. And yet we need to make sure as part of your planning, we've got to serve the general public, because in the end, the general public is still going to drive your profit margin just as much as an event will.
I've seen some wonderful things going on. I've seen a lot of walkers stopping by the patio, having a meal, and continuing on. So definitely we want to be there for the public. If people are willing to come, we're willing to serve. So Saturday's on our agenda as well. It doesn't make sense to do specials just on one day of the week. If we're bringing food on and we can double down and do 2 days, even better. If we can expand to Thursdays, I'm all for it. So you don't get an argument out of me.
Another question I would have, though, is, and I know we talked about this in the interview process, and again, it's a planning question, is and I realize it's around the corner, not like tomorrow, but not far, the pool's going to open. And that's a time of day where you're getting people when it's the slower time of day for you at the restaurant, i.e., 1 o'clock to, let's say, 6 o'clock. Is there any planning going on about how we're going to try to work with the people at the pool to get them to give you business?
Yes, absolutely. We had a brief conversation just yesterday. And so the plan is to create a nice grab-and-go menu for the pool. Things that work well, things that people can serve, pizzas. We don't want to take away from the snack shack that's already there. We want to supplement or to complement, I should say. So yeah, we love, we don't mind running down that hill with food as long as we're allowed to. So. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, and to that end, is there then a plan on how the marketing to the pool is going to be done, so people know that you're frankly, again, the pool has had that little teeny snack shack.
Yeah.
I want to see you be successful. I want to see you expand your business.
Sure.
Is there already a marketing plan or an advertising plan for the pool?
Absolutely. So, once we are able to get our online sales, and I apologize, I think I'm going to time out pretty soon on video, but as long I'll still have audio. So on our online, you'll see up the hill and down the hill. Up the hill is, kind of on the turn and things like that. But down the hill is tennis courts, pool, anywhere down the hill, we will satisfy. So absolutely. And that's part of the menu. We can't bring liquor, and that's why we specifically have a down the hill menu, because that menu will not be inclusive of beer or wine. And we realize that, the mark stops there, so to speak.
Nope, understood.
Yeah.
So, any other questions for Mark? Those were a couple areas that I wanted to address. Anybody else?
We're looking forward to bringing the tennis team and all their parents and a great big crowd to break in that tent for a Sunday. So get that going. And I'm encouraging a lot of the sports teams to do that throughout the season. Will you be offering anything for the fall for events in the tent?
Absolutely. There's so many things that are my head up here in my team. I think Haley's on the call and some of our other team members. There are some great things that we can offer. Dueling pianos, things like that on a nice autumn evening. Just so many ideas for open to the public that we want to bring. So we, as we continue through, we continue to add. We don't want anyone to get bored with us. We don't want to get stale. We want to continue to add and surprise. So that's our plan.
So I'll just take 2 seconds and say thank you, Mark. I appreciate it. And the energy that you're bringing to that facility is really impressive. And obviously the organization is great. Hopefully that situation that Lori brought up earlier is a one-timer that doesn't occur, because I feel like that's going to, leave a bad taste in certain people's mouths. But if that's a one-timer, great. It's out of the way, and you guys can move forward and hopefully make lots of money.
Thank you, Kelly. It's important that we have feedback. All feedback is welcome. That's how we improve. And, we're working on a menu that works in that kitchen. And we talked about other things that we could do to take the pressure off the kitchen. So we will continue.
I'll just add that Mark and his team have been just a delight to work with. And, we're learning each other's capabilities, and it's just been great. And again, I just think we are heading in the right direction, and I fully expect that, we'll be hitting on all cylinders soon enough.
Good to hear. Good to hear. Well, Mark, thank you for your time. Sorry, again, we delayed you, but we look forward to seeing you up there on a regular basis.
Please stop by, say hello. I'd love to meet everyone personally. Anything that we can do, we're there. We want to be part of the community. So it's important to give back. Anything, our business, I want to leave you with these thoughts. Our business model, our company is centered around giving back to the community. Give back till it hurts, and then give back a little bit more. So whatever we can do to help, we're here. Okay, we don't want to just be takers.
Good to hear. Good to hear. All right. Thanks for your time out. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. Be well. Bye-bye.
All right. Appreciate the questions from all. Let's go then to old business. We have a golf course update, Tom.
We do, and just as we've been doing throughout the pandemic, I'm going to spread some good news about the golf course. The numbers this year are it's hard to believe, but they're exceeding last year's totals. We are at more revenue than last year. We have more league play members than last year. The women, in particular, the women's business league has 5 more players than last year. Our the co-ed league is maxed out at 72. The first couples event last Friday had 72 players, which is astonishing. We have more tournaments booked this year than we held last year. The men's club has 10 more members than it did at this time last year. The ladies 9-hole group has reached their max of 66. The ladies 18-hole group has increased by 4 members over last year. John, Karen, and Mark up there continue, and the rest of their team do a just fantastic job. And we've been blessed with good weather again this year. Not as good as last year, but the numbers are telling a different story. So that's a credit to how well an impression they made last year, that we have people coming on the not so nice days this past spring. So and then Brian Johnson and his team, of course, have continued to do just a completely fantastic job maintaining the course. The feedback we've been getting is that we are playing better than almost any other course in the area. I mean, that's what I'm hearing. Our greens are outstanding. Fairways look great. The work they've done with drainage and continue to do has made a huge difference in the playability of the course. And of course, I think the greens roller that was purchased and implemented through a partnership of the Friends of Simsbury Farms, the Simsbury Farms Men's Club, and the equipment surcharge we have, that has really made a big difference in the conditioning of the greens. And Brian and his team have really, I think, got a good handle on how to use it and when to use it to keep the conditions consistent, which is what the golfers like. We have pretty much gotten past most of our COVID restrictions on the golf course at this point. The flags are back in, the ball washers are out, the bunker rakes are out. Of course, with the governor's orders, the mask restrictions are pretty much off at this point. So it does look more normal than it did last fall or even at the beginning of the spring, more to what the true regular golf experience is like. And the restaurant's been a nice compliment to the service that the Pro Shop's offering as they've begun to get ramped up. And we're very excited about what's going on up there, and continue to hope and pray for good weather throughout the rest of the season. But we should finish the fiscal year at the end of June in a very good position, for a very favorable position, just like we did last year. So all good stuff. Any questions on any of that?
No, keep it up.
Yeah, we'll do, Dave. We'll do our best.
Keep it up, even though Memorial Day weekend's gonna be a washout. Oh. Yeah. Okay, so update on Meadowood open space acquisition.
So I'm sure this is old news by this point, but it's the first time we've met since just before the referendum last time. The referendum question on Meadowood did overwhelmingly passed, and by a very wide margin on the first Tuesday, May 4th, I believe. So it's been a while. Right now, town staff is working with TPL and our attorneys to secure the remaining grants that we were chasing, I guess, to complement the funding of what the town approved. So those boxes have been getting checked off recently. They are working toward, I believe, a fall closing on that property. It's just moving right along, and appreciate everybody's support and everybody's efforts toward making this happen. And as we go through the coming months and years, I'm sure there'll be some some more discussion on amenities and planning and care of that beautiful piece of property. But yeah, it's all good news at this point, and like I said, we anticipate probably a fall closing, I think, from what I'm hearing.
That's what we need. That's what we need.
Yeah.
And then an update regarding COVID-19 as it relates to the summer programs.
Yeah. So I'll hit off on enrollment first. I think I've said this the last 2 times we've spoken about it. The summer enrollment's incredible. Whether it's a day camp program, an art class or art camp, or a swimming lesson, just phenomenal enrollment. Our season pass sales have literally been through the roof. It's just the last 2 days since we've made the big news about what the summer pool, the pool deck will look like. We've just been inundated with pass sales. But so the good news on the COVID front with the pool, we have been told the Connecticut DPH did not take a stand or put any restrictions on us for this summer. We worked with our local health district to find out, proposed plans for them. They have been approved. We worked with the town manager. Those plans were approved. It will look very much like a normal summer up at Simsbury Farms. There will be no restriction on just our regular, the capacity we set ourselves for lessons, lap swim, the regular public swimming sessions on the deck. No pre-registration for afternoon public swim. It will not be 2 separate 3-hour sessions like it was last year. It will be back to the weekday, Monday through Friday, 1 to 8, and then the weekends, 12 to 6. Lap swims will take place before those public swim sessions, just as they regularly would have. We will have a sign at the front gate that basically says something to the effect of, the town of Simsbury highly encourages anyone who is not fully vaccinated and entering this facility, that we basically recommend that you wear a mask while in the facility. We do recognize that a large number of our customers are children under the age of 12 who would not have the opportunity to have been vaccinated, and certainly those in the community who've chosen not to be vaccinated. If you're entering our indoor spaces such as the lobby, changing rooms, or the restrooms areas, we will ask, in following the governor's mandate, that anybody indoors who is not vaccinated in a public space wear a mask. We are not checking, for vaccination cards as you walk through the gate or anything. Our staff, have been encouraged to be vaccinated. Our full-time staff is almost entirely vaccinated at this point. But that it's going to look more or less like a regular summer out there. Thankfully, the community, the numbers in our area for positivity are very, very low. Our vaccination rates in this community are very, very high. Our health director feels very confident what we were doing is, she's very comfortable with what we proposed and what we will be doing and what I outlaid to you. We did relay that to the public through social media and our email blast route yesterday. I believe it was yesterday morning, maybe the day before. At this point, it's all blending together. And it's just we've gotten a very positive response to that.
Tom, is there a requirement? And I'm not advocating one way or another. I'm just asking: is there a requirement that staff for the camps or lifeguards must be vaccinated in order to work that position?
Good question. No, there is not. It was a personal choice at this time. The town has not made that a requirement. The people in those positions are well aware that they're working in a communal environment closely with other people. They are primarily outside. We have encouraged them. We've let them know. We've given them access to information regarding vaccination clinics in our area to kind of push that along. But again, at this point, the town has not made it a mandatory option for employment for any of the staff throughout the organization, whether it's seasonal or full time.
No, I understand. I just wanted to ask so I could answer a question of a neighbor of mine.
Sure. Yep. That's good question. Day camp, we have gotten just recently, I think it's yesterday, guidance from the state. Our camp counselors and our campers will not be required to wear a mask while outdoors. Once they enter a building, whether it's the bathhouse at Memorial or the Central School, children and campers in a child care setting, do need to wear a mask. And we do not have any plans to put kids on buses this summer, so there shouldn't be any issue with that.
There you go. does anyone in the commission have any questions about the summer programs? Hey, Liz, do we have our normal pro forma member present, your dog?
He's busy keeping guard at the front door.
There you go. There you go. I saw him earlier. Just
Yes.
wanted to make sure that, you know, he's the only smart one. He skipped out early. All right. Does anybody have any new things to be brought up?
Yes.
Kelly?
This, if it's more than 1 minute, just stop me. Would love to have you guys consider a new addition to the format that we use in our meetings. And we didn't have to talk about it tonight. I'm just throwing it out there. You guys can sleep on it, percolate it, and we can talk about it when there's a shorter meeting. But part of the meeting dedicated, maybe 5 minutes, to where we are versus our strategic plan. Would love to have some kind of just a little small, tiny section of the meeting dedicated to that, just so we see, so we know too. We spent a fair amount of money on that as a town, and I would love to know from Tom's standpoint where we stand, and also you know, what the needs are going forward. But don't need to tie you guys up tonight talking about it.
No, Kelly.
Kelly, give me 1 second, Dave. I'll say, Kelly, I know I promised you that before, and I get busy every month and I forget. I will say my nugget for this month was supposed to be, after this meeting, I'm going to send it out through the email service so you guys get the first bit of it. But we are adding mountain biking programs. Learn to mountain bike for kids and adults. That was something that mountain biking programs was in the Parks and Open Space Master Plan is something some of the people wanted to see through a survey. So that's going to be my nugget that was going to be my nugget this month. I forgot to add it to the agenda, but that you guys get it first. As soon as we hang up on this meeting, I'm hitting send on the email. So,
okay, thank you.
No, and Kelly, I think that's important. Is we've spent the time and the money to do something like that, and a strategic plan is only as good as how you monitor and make sure that you're trying to accomplish the identified goals. So that's a reason you're in this leadership position. I can tell already. That, or it's, you know, the mind just gets clearer when you're at the Cape.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's the reading skills, Dave. Come on, as exhibited by tonight, correct?
You and me both. Do I have a motion to adjourn this longer than usual meeting?
So moved.
Do I have a second? I see Lori waving. Folks, thank you for being patient. We do have a lot going on, and we wanted to give everybody a chance to give input. So appreciate your time tonight. Enjoy the rest of a beautiful night.